Illinois. Specifically, Chicago, Illinois. Now, when Donald J. Trump was running for president, he knew that he was going to have a hard time in Chicago. It's a traditionally Democratic city. I'm not saying it's a liberal city or a left city or a progressive city, but it's a traditionally Democratic city. So one of the things that Trump did was he knew that Mike Ditka, ex-coach for the Chicago Bears, was a big Trump fan. Now, did he love Trump because he was a racist? I don't know. Did he love Trump because he was a rapist? I don't know. Did he love Trump just because he was a big white guy who talked a lot? I'm kind of going with that one. Big guy, says whatever's on his mind, whoever obnoxious it happens to be. And, Mike Ditka. So, Trump called Ditka and asked him for an endorsement. And Ditka said how much he loved Trump, but that he didn't want to endorse him. And while he was saying, well, I don't want to endorse you, I'm not really making any endorsements, but I agree with all of these different policies that you want and all of this. And at some point, Ditka paused to get Trump's response. And he realized Trump had hung up on him. Who knows how long ago? Probably as soon as Ditka said he wasn't going to endorse him. Did this deter Ditka? Did he feel like he had just been thumped by an elitist? Did he feel with his working class roots that the rich guy had just dissed him? Nah, he still loved Trump, even though he had clearly hung up on him. Now, for the rest of the state, Illinois is not a particularly progressive state. And you might wonder, why would people who are so hardworking, why would people in all of these small towns who've spent their lives, struggling to make a better life for their children, vote for someone who doesn't give a damn about their children, someone who would probably literally eat their children, and not because they were starving, but just to see how tasty and tender they were. And it has a lot to do with, I think, the idea when you're in a city, you come to a city, you move to a city. The type of person that moves to a city is the type of person who's looking for change. They're looking for things to change. And in a city, once they get here, their advancement, the betterment for them and their family is to a certain extent going to depend upon progressive change. New businesses, roads being laid, bridges being built. That's what they need, for a city is constantly trying to grow and expand and change. Whereas the sort of person who decides to live a more agrarian life, they need things to kind of stay the same. Change, when you're living out, when you're farming, is not necessarily a good thing. What does change mean? Sometimes change means they bring in a big combine and a bunch of field workers are laid off. Change means that all of these huge corporations swoop in and buy up these farms and decimate these families. Change is a threat if you're making your living in a more traditional business. So it is no wonder that people who live out in the country, who are relying on a more traditional life and relying on things staying about the same, are easily turned away from progressivism. They don't necessarily want that sort of change. And what they see in the news and what they see in movies when it comes to cities is constantly crime and trouble. The cities are teeming with danger. They are teeming with strangers, with foreigners, with other languages, with other accents, with people they don't understand. A world that we are rushing towards that is frightening and dangerous and extraordinarily, unnecessarily different. And so anything that represents that, anything that represents a progressive change towards the future, is just dangerous and must be avoided. And anyone, including a billionaire con man who promises them that he will stand in the way of progress, stand in the way of change, promises them that he will make sure that their lives will be unaltered, that if possible, they will move back to the lives of their parents. Any, suntanned billionaire blowhard liar will tell them what he thinks they want to hear, any lie, to save them from the dangerous future and the progressive cities. They might gravitate towards that person. However, here in Illinois, Trump only got 40% of the vote because, well, let's face it, Illinois is, to a large extent, some big cities like Chicago. And the people living out in the countryside are not that easily fooled. 40% of them are. And who knows, that 40% might be people who just always vote Republican no matter what. But anyway, Illinois didn't vote for Trump.